Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Richard Jones, and I work for the Railway Industry Association, and RIA is the way we're going to refer to it today. So here's our logo. I'm really pleased to welcome you to the last in this week's webinars on the Digital Railway Programme. It's been a marathon, but the finished tape is in sight, folks. And I think people now seem to agree that Digital Railway is, in fact, the most important engineering programme to our industry over the next 20 years. It's absolutely vital to performance and a whole bunch of other aspects. It's really important to point out that RIA is managing these events, but it's not the only contributor. They're organised in conjunction with Network Rail and the UK Rail Research and Innovation Network, UCRIN, and they're also supported by Network Rail, for which we're all grateful. And of course, I want to thank all of our speakers today and for the whole week, without whom none of this is possible whatsoever. So let's just have a quick recap on what we've covered this week. On Monday, we heard about a high-level overview of the project from Network Rail and London North Eastern Railway. On Tuesday, we looked at the first rollout projects, East Coast Main Line, cab fitment, and so on. On Wednesday, we talked about the structures which are going to assure the long-term success of this programme. So that includes the sector deal, Project 190, and the long-term delivery plan. Yesterday, we focused on the innovation that's already happening in the project and the research and development which will drive future innovation as well, and some really exciting stuff in there, I thought. Today, we're going to turn to the important business of supply chain building and opportunities for SMEs in the programme. David Madison of Alstom is going to lead us off with a presentation on their CP6 frameworks. We then have a panel session, so slightly different to billing, on building supply chains. We'll have a presentation after that on the Network Rail Signalling Innovation Group. And then we'll hear from an SME who's actually just won an important scope of work in the wider Digital Railway Programme. So it's an illustration really that it can be done. There is work in there to win. And finally, we're going to hear about a big new investment going on at Birmingham University in the building of a new Centre of Excellence in Digital Systems, which is open to all, including SMEs. Right, that's a packed 90 minutes. Let's get on with it. Our first speaker is David Madison, Regional Delivery Director at Alstom for the North and Scotland, around the current signalling frameworks, which of course could extend into CP7 and into Digital Railway territory. So, David, I'm going to hand over to you if that's okay.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak in this webinar. So I'm Dave Madison. I'm the Regional Delivery Director for the North and Scotland. Part of my responsibility in that role is also to look after the Eastern Major Signalling Framework. And today I'm just going to really focus a lot of the conversation around how our supply chain, and particularly around small to medium enterprises, can work with support and win work with Alstom. So I think it's probably worth just doing a very whistle-stop tour of who are Alstom. So in numbers, really, I mean, Alstom has been part of the rail industry in the UK for over a century. In fact, 1/3 of all daily passenger rail journeys in the UK are on an Alstom train, and over half of the trains on the London Underground were made by Alstom. We operate in 4 main business streams, really. I think it's clear most people recognise Alstom for our rolling stock and train business. Obviously, we have a great portfolio in there, but we do obviously tram, metro, suburban, regional, high speed, very high speed, locomotives, components that support that delivery. And obviously, we've got some great brands like the TGV, like the Pendolinas, and then more recently, the first hydrogen train, the iLint train that's been in operation in commercial service in Germany, and that's the first commercial service hydrogen train in the world. But the train business is actually only around 50% of the Alstom business. The other components of the Alstom business are signalling services and systems. Within the signalling element of the business, you know, we have a signalling solutions portfolio for urban, main lines, control and security. And we sell that as products, turnkey or individual, turnkey solutions, turnkey products or individual products. Services, obviously our maintenance and modernisation, support services around that. And we recently signed one of the largest maintenance contracts with Avanti West Coast for the Pendolinos. And systems, which is around integrated solutions, and which is really around city and urban mobility. As an organisation, we had 8.2 billion of sales in the 2019-20 financial year. We have over 36,000 employees worldwide. We operate in regions, although we have a worldwide presence and a worldwide focus, worldwide process and platforms, we have a very much big focus on localized support to our clients. And today's presentation will be around our signalling capabilities. We have over 8,000 signalling employees worldwide. And interestingly, from a signalling perspective, whether it be on board or trackside, we're actually number 1 or number 2 in every continent, including the UK, Europe, France, Asia Pacific, North America. And people may have been recently seen in the press about the aspirations of Alstom to acquire Bombardier Transportation. And obviously that's going through compliance and regulatory frameworks at the moment. But should that happen, early next year, should that be successful, Alstom and Bombardier mergers organisation will be the second largest mobility supplier in the world. So what we offer is, we're a global leader clearly in the transportation sector, and particularly in the digital age. We offer a complete range of transportation solutions, whether it be train control, whether it be trackside or on board, route control, with regards to interlocking, trackside products, security and control centres. So again, it's a full turnkey or individual solutions that we can offer to our clients. So I want to talk really about the major signalling framework, which is of importance to us clearly, and of importance getting our supply chain SMEs involved in this. So in regards to what is it? Well, the major signalling framework was effectively the next tranche of undertaking major signalling renewals and enhancements, and how Network Rail procured these services were effectively in 5 lots. One individual organisation, the maximum number of lots you could secure is 2 lots, and Alstom were very successful in securing lots 1, which is the southern region, and lot 1, which is southern region, lots 2, which is the eastern region, which I look after, and I'll talk a little bit more about here. The figures shown are the published figures from Network Rail in regards to the major signalling framework, and shows the potential values that sit within those frameworks. So you can see that lots 1 and lots 2 are actually some significant aspects of significant lots in that framework. So we're very pleased to win that. And the gut feel at the moment is, those figures are shown for the next 4 years. The framework is a 4-year +1+1. But we're seeing the high end of those frameworks coming to fruition at the moment. So we do see between 700 and 800 million pounds coming through the major signalling framework in the next 4 years through to the Alstom business and through to the supply chain. So significant investment for Network Rail, and something we're very pleased to be part of, and taking the digital railway and these opportunities forward. So a little bit, we signed the framework with Network Rail in January 2020, so it's very clear that we're in the early days of the framework itself. So, and we're seeing that with the pipeline of opportunities. So a lot of investment at the moment in some early contractor involvement works, and moving into later part of this year, some of the Grit 4, and then into next year, a lot of Grit 5 to 8 works. But it's clear that it's a really robust pipeline that we have, and it goes well beyond CP6. So contracts that will be awarded in years 2, 3, and 4 of the framework will easily extend into and beyond into CP7. I just wanted to say a little bit about what's the differentiators around this framework to post frameworks or past frameworks. And this was the challenge to us, and this is the challenge to the supply chain, that we have approached this differently. It is a different marketplace. What's needed is different. And why do I say that? Well, actually, there is a clear focus on putting passengers first. What's been done in the past isn't necessarily what's needed in the future. We've really got to put the passenger at the heart of the decision making that we're doing. So the technology deployment, how we're approaching it, how we're commissioning, how we're staging our works. We've always got to challenge ourselves in regards to what is the disruption to the passenger, what is the passenger benefits, the projects that we deliver, what is in it for the passengers. So, real big shift change, real big dial change in regards to what's previously been undertaken, and the focus of ourselves and Network Rail. So, good insight, the dial has changed, but how do we do that? How do we actually create that environment? Well, innovation's core to it. We have our products, our solutions, they have to be fit for the future. They have to be digital ready now. And that's one thing that Alstom do have, is that all the products and services we deliver now are delivered digital ready for the future. So, a key differentiator. And what we want from our supply chain is that innovation. We want our supply chain to be involved early in the decision-making process, you know, and challenge us in regards to how we're approaching it. Again, with the mindset of putting the passenger first. But also, you know, big bang things, big innovations, great. But, you know, we have to make a lot of small incremental improvements. And that's one of the key things in regards to, you know, our supply chain, doing things better, doing things more efficiently, you know, whether it be the design process that we operate, whether it's the products, whether it's the solutions. But, you know, there is a real dial change in regards to what the requirements are and how we approach the major signalling framework. And that's the challenge to us all, really. So in regards to, as I said, I look after the Eastern framework. The Eastern region in numbers is a significant artery. You know, it's a significant portfolio in regards to the renewals and enhancements pipeline. And what I've shown is some of the projects that are likely to be developed within the renewals pipeline. There's the enhancements pipeline, but there's some significant projects in there. You know, for example, if I look at the Cambridge project and the Ely capacity project, Ely capacity is a 1.2 billion enhancement program, of which the signalling aspect of the works is a significant part of that. Cambridge inner and outer will probably be the single largest projects that's going to be delivered in all the major signalling framework lots. So again, you know, we're doing the early contractor involvement in those works now. And, you know, when people talk about when do we want the supply chain involved in this process, it's now, it's bringing those innovative ideas now, helping us support the decisions that we make to move forward. So what I would, the takeaway from it is there's actually a very significant work bank coming forward, particularly in the Eastern region, and we're also seeing the same in the Southern region. So from a signalling industry, very buoyant time, very exciting time, you know, and we need to work together to achieve the deliverables that we've got going forward. So significantly, I want to spend a good proportion of the discussion really about, you know, how can you be part of this? How can our supply chain, how can SMEs be part of this? Because I recognise that sometimes it's a bit daunting coming to trying to open the door in a multinational organisation. You know, what I will say is, as a business, we're very UK focused. So, you know, we do really encourage our supply chain and SMEs in the UK to be involved in what we do. And we try to make the door as wide as we can to get people involved in that process. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. So there's some challenges, clearly some challenges in the business and the industry. You know, the challenge is, you know, we have to create capacity. So it's very clear that the skills that are available in the signalling industry at the moment, what we need now is different to what we needed 10 years ago. So we have to upskill, invest, and develop in those skills and competencies. But when people talk about digital railway, actually the projects and services that we deliver, they are digital ready. So, you know, over the next few years, the projects that we're delivering now can be easily transferred into an ETS onboard application. And there's a huge amount of investment needed, not only by Alstom, but our supply chain to achieve the results that we need to do. So what does the supply chain need from us and from our clients? Well, obviously we need the certainty and the commitment of the order book. You know, we need that commitment. Why? Because, you know, we're going to have to develop significantly in new products, new services, new innovation, our resources. You know, enables gives long-term investment. You know, and clearly we need to reduce the barriers to entry to encourage more innovation, allow tier twos and SMEs to not only support us but to compete with us in certain areas to generate capacity in the marketplace. But what we want is, and what we've seen, and we've really seen the benefit of this, is that early contractor involvement is having significant inroads in the way we approach the projects. So, you know, we're looking at a technology deployment across a route as opposed to making individual decisions around projects. So we make a route-wide decision, you know, which is really supporting. It's having massive advantages in regards to how we're approaching it and how our clients perceiving us. And, you know, our supply chain plays a big part of that. But interestingly, some stats around SMEs particularly. So from a signalling perspective only, around 20% of our contracted works on an annual basis goes direct from Alstom to SMEs. And then obviously of the other significant amount that goes to our, say, tier two suppliers, actually evidence is showing us that around 30–40% of that from our tier two distribution is also going to SMEs. So SMEs play a significant part in what we do and what our tier two suppliers do. So again, you know, it's in our own interest to be as collaborative as we can and make sure there's a clear open door for people to come knocking on that door with the innovation and services that they have, you know, to make, again, with the decision of putting passenger first. So what do we need? What does Alstom need? What does our clients need from early contractor involvement and the benefits of it, getting our supply chain involved early in the decision-making process? As I said, we've seen significant development in ECI. So again, a technology roadmap, innovation, again, we've not got all the answers clearly, and what we're looking for is our supply chain to support us in making decisions that's right for the projects themselves. Solutions that are designed to meet the key challenges. So, Network Rail moving away from, they're sort of more collaborative in allowing suppliers like ourselves to come forward with the technology solutions that support them and address their key needs. And that benefit of them listening to us is actually putting better decisions, better products forward, and having better results on the projects themselves. So again, identifying the right technology earlier is critical. We've seen lots of projects where scope change occurs late. There's not clear definition of what the outcomes are. So identifying the outcomes early, wrapping the technology around those outcomes is having better results for everybody. And future-proofing clearly the systems, the innovation that we have, the projects that we deliver, making sure that they are ready for a digital future. And as I said, the products we install today are ready to be able to transition into the digital future. And one of the key things I will say is long-term partnering. We are a really collaborative organisation, and we really do want to be building long-term partnerships. You've seen the potential opportunities within the framework. It goes from CP6 into CP7 and beyond. We really do recognise the benefit of that. What does all that mean? Benefits to us, to the client? Well, improved safety, value management, reliability, less disruption to the passengers, and obviously, clearly, importantly for all, a reduction in costs of the ASC, which is a key driver at the moment in regards to the industry and how affordable it is going forward into the future. So, we're making big roads into it, but again, we need our supply chain suppliers to be heavily involved in that, because your ideas support us in delivering the projects that we have. So what I've tried to do, and this list is not exhaustive, is give a flavour for the types of products and services that we either directly source from our supply chain or via our tier twos. And what you can see, so I've tried to do it in the sort of the traditional grit 4, and I've got a slide for grit 5 to 8, and a slide on our business requirements. But again, it's not exhaustive, but you can see it's a wide and varied range of services that we do need and expertise in. And as I said, there really is an open door for SMEs, our supply chain, to come in. If there's innovation occurring, we want to hear about it. If there's a new way of doing things, if there's a new way of surveying things, if there's a new way of modelling things, we really do want to hear about that and ensure that we've got the right communication channels for you to come to us and present to that. So they're the types of services within the Grit 4 realm. Again, very much focused on design activities. And then we move to the Grit 5 to 8, which is around the detailed design, commissioning, and handback. So again, you can see, not exhaustive, a lot more services that we procure direct, but you can see the types of opportunities that sit within the current projects that we have and beyond, and the types of opportunities that will be needed to support the digital rail delivery of the future as well. And again, just looking at some of the business requirements, again, non-exhaustive, but a lot of things that we do, smarter, leaner, and them types of things, whether it's training, innovation, consumables, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity that sit within that the supply chain has an opportunity to support Alstom on that. And then most importantly, one thing that we're very keen to understand is actually, how does the supply chain get the foot in the door? Because that is clearly one of the, when I talk to the supply chain and the SMEs, that's one of the things. How do we actually reach out to you? Well, you can reach out direct. One of the things we do as an organisation is, we have a lot of, as many organisations do, social media events. But the social media, if you follow us, shows when we have meet the buyer events, supply chain events. RIA is a fantastic opportunity to link into Alstom as an organisation. But more importantly, I've put a couple of key contact names down there. So the slides will be distributed at the end of the session, and it's an open door. So please reach out to us. As I've said, there's lots of services that we require from you. and lots of support from the supply chain to deliver the services. But again, you know, as the challenge to us is, the challenge to us and the challenge I give to you is we want new ideas, we want innovation, we want an agile supporting supply chain that can really drive and take us forward to meet the challenges of the future. Okay, that's it from me. As I said, please reach out to us, and really encourage you to get involved in Alstom delivering and supporting these works.
David, that's absolutely fabulous. Thank you very much indeed. That's a great picture of an open door. Really appreciate it. So if you'd stay with us, please, David, just to remind everyone that you can ask questions by text using the questions dialog box. That's the grey panel. You've got some tabs in there. Questions is an important one. Also look out for the handouts one, where you can download PDFs of the whole slide packs from each of the other days of the week so far, and today as well, of course. Now, there's a slight change to billing. We'll have an open panel session. So David Madison is joined by Lucy Pryor in her role as Deputy Chair of RIA's SME Group, by Martin Wright, who's Head of Rail at Lynbrook, who jointly with Hitachi hold other frameworks, and Andy Stringer, Chief Engineer of Siemens, who's responsible for the delivery, of course, of the East Coast Mainline Rollout project on Digital Railway, and also an air experience at RIA, a very big supporter of SMEs. So thanks to all of you today for joining in. We absolutely appreciate that. David, you pointed out that the progression to digital railway isn't a step, it's a gradual process with existing conventional signalling becoming digital ready. So how does that help SMEs make that transition from conventional signalling to digital signalling? Are you doing joint training with people, or how is that? What's happening in that process?
Yeah, as I said, it is gradual at the moment, but as I said, the solutions that we're delivering today is all based on the fact that they're ready for the digital future, and it is a real shift change from the competencies that exist today to where the future needs to be. We're doing a lot of work with our clients, with our supply chain, to bring them on that journey. But as I said, we can only do that by being collaborative with the supply chain and the SMEs and getting them involved in clearly defining where the future of the rail industry is going, what the needs of the digital requirements are, and allowing them to support us, and we support them on that journey as well. So it's a challenge, and it's gradual, is what I would say.
Thank you. Martin, how about with Lynbrook and the transition to digital? How is that impacting your business and your relationship with suppliers?
Yeah, so interestingly, whilst we've just heard from David, who works for a large PLC that's been around for quite a long time, Lynbrook are slightly different and actually probably quite a good success story to tell other SMEs that it's possible. So Lynbrook only started in 2002 and have been an SME for a long time and are making the transition at the moment. And the reality is Lynbrook don't have any product to sell, so we're all about people. So we focus very much on how we train our people to become what is needed in the rail sector. And so we have, for example, we've got our own training school up in Sheffield, and we've used that to train up our own EMP, telecoms and signalling installers. And we've deliberately gone to places outside of the railway industry to attract those people in. We've got a particular background with ex-military people, training them and deploying them out of the military and into the signalling and the telecoms in particular background. So it just shows that if you have the right approach, you can make a success of that. You've got to position yourself well within the market. You've got to understand the needs, and then you've got to figure out a way to train the people to deliver the skills that are needed.
Thank you. And Andy, Siemens inherently a digital business. Are you finding you're having to pull suppliers along with you?
Bit of a mix, to be honest, Richard. I think we've got a big supply chain, a lot of companies that we've been involved with for a lot of time, and I think once you're in there, it's quite easy. We like working with people we know, but always open to new people. I think the challenge for a lot of SMEs is how do you get in? I think it's quite easy to get an opening with any of the big suppliers. What's really difficult is to get the second meeting. It's really easy to get the first pitch. How do you get into that second one? And I think for me, the key is to follow the pain. A lot of people say follow the money because that's where the opportunity must be, but actually look where the OEMs are hurting. It's really easy. If you look at CP5, it's littered with projects that were delayed or didn't go well. I think as an industry, we're brilliant at signalling, our record on project delivery, there's always room for improvement. I think if the SMEs look at that, where's that pain? Where are these guys hurting? That's when you go in and you make life easier for somebody. And the way we can build relationships on that.
I couldn't agree more. You know, it's where's the need that you know you can fulfill with your service. So Lucy, to flip it over and look at it from the SME supplier side, I mean, you've been very successful with HS2. What's the secret behind that?
Well, from a 3 Squared specific point of view, it's kind of exactly what Andy said and also what Martin said. It's being steadfast, it's looking for where the opportunities are, it's engaging with people. So yeah, first, second call, do that directly, but also you cannot underestimate the value of your trade associations, be it RIA, Rail Forum, Rail Alliance, whatever it may be. And if you're further down the supply chain, or like with Martin, if you're pulling people in from cross-sector, you know, use multiple. If you can afford more than one membership, use them and use them to the best of your advantage and network, be it online at events such as this, in person. It's as much, I would argue, it's as much about pursuing specific opportunities or pain points as it is about getting your name known and proving that your company has the skill that is needed in that particular area.
That's good. That's a great perspective. Thank you, Lucy. RIA puts a lot of effort into squeezing Network Rail to release pipelines to explain when work is going to come to the market. So for you people working for the larger organizations, so I guess that's particularly David and Andy, what do you do to reflect that onto your suppliers in terms of publishing a pipeline of work and giving people notice of what's coming along?
I think it's fair to say the pipeline's fluid. I mean, we signed the framework in January this year, and you know, projects come in and out all the time in regards to where the focus is. So I think it's probably recently in the press around project speed. So there's a number of projects that are in the eastern region that seem to be taking precedence over other projects that we weren't having conversations about 2 to 3 months ago. So it's fluid, but actually our sourcing team, our supply chain are very good at distributing openly the pipeline to the supply chain so they can see that the opportunities come up. You know, it's easy with the larger projects, like I talked about the Cambridge Inner Outer project. You know, it's a 4-year project that we're doing the development work for now. So, you know, we can be very open about the services that are required in those types of projects. It's a bit harder with projects that are shown to be coming in line in 2 to 3 years' time. But, you know, all I would say is that, you know, our supply chain team do a lot of work with engaging, meet the buyer events, supplier forums, you know, webinars with the supply chain, things like that. So there's lots of opportunity to tap into the knowledge and visibility that we have. And events like this, you know, I can't echo enough how important these are to allow us to get our messages out there to show people what we're involved in as well. So I would just say keep trying with us and you know, keep knocking on the door. We're a pretty open organisation, and we want to show that visibility to people so they can support us on our journey.
Andy, assuring that visibility of pipeline goes on, passes through you and down to SMEs. Yeah,
it does. I just wonder when you ask the question, I wonder if my answer is the same as my supplier's answer would be. And that kind of makes me think perhaps we should ask our suppliers and come and be honest with us. Do we give you enough information on that pipeline, and what could we do? It's not always easy because quite often we're sharing what we've got, which is not a lot. Well, we've only got the hint of something coming. I think it'd be quite good to work with the supply chain to say, what could we give you? What would you like to know, given the limited information that we have? I like to think we've stood by our suppliers, particularly as we manage the transition from CP5 to CP6. There'll be a lot of the same faces in that supply chain. But really keen to hear from the suppliers actually about what we could improve in that.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure if suppliers understood the problems you have with your customer in terms of getting visibility of pipeline, they feel that as well. So again, Luke, flipping that over from the other side, do you feel that there's visibility with the tier 1 companies of the kind of projects that are coming along to get you in the right place at the right time?
Was that to me?
Yes, it is, Lucy. Yeah, please.
Yeah, it's a mixture of things. So, I mean, Andy, I'll give you an example. Siemens did a fantastic supplier engagement event a couple of summers ago at the High Speed Rail College in Doncaster, where you had senior representatives from each of your business departments. and the feedback from that was brilliant. And Alstom, you also do really good engagement pieces as well, and then there's general meet the buyer type events that RIA run. Sorry if there's any background noise. So yeah, more of that is essential and crucial, and it's really interesting as well because it enables the suppliers to meet the potential buyers in real life, and it's building that personal relationship right from the off. What I would also say as well is, as we as SMEs, we need to make use of other tools that are there. So Compete For is becoming increasingly important, not just for HS2 opportunities, but across the piece. Any large public procurement opportunity, the sub trickle down of that is vital. So again, it goes back to legwork. Speak directly to the OEMs, but do your research and find out what you can do for yourself as well, and use all those portals as best you can.
Yes, yeah, I think that fits with what Andy's saying as well, which is identify the people who've got a problem you can fix, and yeah, do the legwork, but it's tiring, and make sure that you do the legwork in exactly the right place. Martin, how do you feel about visibility of pipeline passing down through the tier ones?
Yeah, so we're in an interesting position in that, as you know, we've got a consortium with Hitachi for the Mazref in the Western and Wales area, and so by dint of sitting on that consortium, we do see the pipeline that comes through there. Also, we're the S&T framework holder in the Eastern region, so we get to see a lot of what comes out directly from Network Rail, albeit maybe not in that tier one capacity, but straight into Network Rail. The interesting thing for me is the way that we work with our supply chain, though. So I spend a lot of time talking to my supply chain about their capabilities and talking about what jobs are coming up and how they're best placed to deliver those, rather than just saying to them, I'm going to put out a competitive tender for you to come and have a bidding war for the lowest possible price for this job. For me, it's around working with a small number in the supply chain, but people who've got specific capabilities, and ensuring there's enough work for everyone out here. To be honest, there's enough money being spent by Network Rail. What we've got to do is we've got to make sure that that money is spent in the right place by clever conversations with the supply chain to make sure they're delivering jobs they're best placed to deliver.
Yes, absolutely, and delivering efficiently as well. We heard yesterday about, on Wednesday, about the sector deal, about the long-term delivery plan and Project 190. So all together, put them all together, they're the future. And they say that in order to expect the programme to be fully funded by HM government, we need, in just a few years from now, to deliver 3 times the output we're delivering today in terms of signalling equivalent units, at 50% lower unit cost. That is a massive challenge, and it requires, I think, a whole new range of skills. But what are those skills, and where are we going to get them? Andy, what do you think about that?
I think it's a challenge, but I think if you were to look at where we are now compared to where we were maybe the end of CP2, CP3, I think we've already undergone some massive growth, and we've brought an awful lot of people into the industry collectively. I think getting the certainty of the supply, the pipeline, so we know what's coming, that's really essential to us to see that. I think the technological leaps we're going to make in the next few years as well, as we get more digital, the amount of work that we're going to be able to automate, that's really, really going to be fundamental to this. It can't just be about sweating the same assets in terms of the very clever people that understand railway interlockings. We've got to automate, and we've got to use the technology to deliver it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Lucy, from sitting where you are now, perhaps with your 3 Squared hat on, are you feeling the market coming towards you?
I think what we're seeing, I mean, internally at 3 Squared, we have an ongoing debate. Are we a tech company or are we a railway company? Because I very, very much see myself as a member of the railway community, but actually back at base, or back in our virtual base now, we're a technology team. And I have to say the job market for software developers, testers, writers, coders, PMs, it is tough right now, as in it's tough to find candidates. It's such a growing market. I think that, in conjunction with what Martin was saying, having NTRS, which, you know, I've seen NTRS grow over the years, and it's fantastic what we're doing. Learning as a sector, as a railway sector, that we need skills that aren't railway, as it were. I hate inverted commas like that. Sorry, everyone. You know, we have to address and embrace the fact that we're not just looking for the traditional skills anymore. We can see that the National Training Academy is shifting its focus. NSAR itself has massive research going on into the emerging skills. National College for High Speed Rail has changed itself to NCATI, reflecting all of that as well. So as an industry, we need to be able to communicate that better and wider, and that's why, for example, one of my other hats is working on the skills workstream with North Rail leaders that I'm jumping onto after this call. So collectively we need to speak more fluently to a wider population and to engage with people much earlier and make them aware that this isn't just about building trains or laying tracks, it's about that really cutting edge technical skill that we need. There's an emerging job market, and it's really exciting that we can help develop it, I think.
It is. I look forward to a day not very far away where we don't think, are we a tech company or are we a rail company? We're a rail company, and that means being a tech company. That's one of the reasons.
Taking that one back.
Yeah. Why we engaged with the Leeds Digital Festival a couple of months ago for our last Unlocking Innovation event is because we want that community to feel they can be part of the rail industry and vice versa. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm just skip to one quick last question about the life cycle and where to engage. David, when do you think is the right time, the best time for the tier ones to engage with partners and suppliers?
I would say absolutely the start, that the conceptual stage of the project, really, because that's when the ideas and the generation is done. When we start entering into the sort of the realms of the Grit 4, Grit 5 to 8, decisions and technology deployments already been made. So then you're very much into the requirements there. But what I would say is, there's innovation opportunities. They need to be part of the decision-making process. So as I said, we've got, we're really keen to get people involved in innovation, how do we deploy our technology in a better way? As I said, so for me, it's very much as early as possible is the best solution for us, really.
Martin, is that what you see happening in reality? Okay, outside of your heart relationship with Hitachi?
Yeah, I completely agree with David. As early as possible is always better. For me, it's got to be at a targeted time. There's a right time to engage with the technology companies. There's a right time to engage with the installer, and there's a right time to engage with the guys who are going to operate this at the end of the day. So I think doing it at the right time is absolutely key. And I would also say that it's a leap of faith, this, and it's a leap of faith for leadership. So I listened to what Lucy and Andy said about use of technology and bringing people in and the young people in to do this for us. I think as leaders, we've got to challenge ourselves as well, though. We have an established way of doing things through many years of being in the railway industry, and we need to do things differently if we're going to deliver the volumes for the money that you talked about earlier on. And that requires us to take a risk, and taking a risk is often difficult for businesses. And it requires a leap of faith, and it requires a mindset change. So really, I think that's where we need to engage, is with the leadership to say, are you ready to take that leap of faith? And have you thought about the risks and how you manage them? And then maybe we might be in a good position to do it when the time comes.
I mean, it's often the technology change is almost trivial compared to the culture change and the training of people and the changing of processes. Andy, what's your take on that? Early engagement a benefit?
I think early engagement's good. I think any engagement at any time. I think, speaking from personal experience, when I've been at the back end of a project and I've felt like I've got the world on my shoulders, anybody coming in with a good idea there to help solve that, I'm not going to say wait until the next project. If you've got a good idea, the door's open Monday, that's a good time to come and speak to me. And I think it depends where your innovation is as to where you want to help. I think if it's the back end of a project, speak to people who are at the back end of the project.
That's quite useful, actually. My next question, very briefly, was going to be to ask about how SMEs can make the best use of their time by ensuring they engage with the right target customers. So, Lucy, from your point of view, clearly you haven't got time to go and talk to everybody. You've got to target. How do you make the best use of your time to target the right people?
It's understanding your offering really well. What is it you can do? What pain point can you help answer? What's your offering? And what problems will it solve? And then that helps you then identify the area of the market you're going for, and then identify the stakeholders and essentially your target clients in that area. So, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you only target OEMs, but for a shameless accidental pitch, I know, for example, at 3 Squared handle competency management, digitalization of competency management really well. So for me, as business engagement, business development, it's working out who needs competency management for safety critical staff, and then look for companies that would therefore need help in digitalising that process. And the same applies to whether it's service providers such as Limbrook, or telecoms providers such as Limbrook, or whether you're labour providers or seating manufacturers. Understand what gap you're trying to fill, do your homework and go for them. Really, really be refined. Otherwise, you'll do like I did in the early days and scattergun and get nowhere.
That's wisdom, Lucy. It's absolute wisdom. Just very quick. From your side of the equation, Andy, you're a busy guy. You've got a team to run. You've got projects to deliver. You know, do you expect that level of targeting from SMEs when they come to you?
I think you can always tell the ones that have really thought about it. I think you can always find somebody to come and speak to at Siemens, and I guess at the other big suppliers as well. I think the SMEs that have the most impact are the ones that have really thought about what is your problem, but also what is it that they've really got to bring to you, rather than just looking for a vague hope that an OEM's a big company with some money behind it. I think that targeting that Lucy stressed is really key.
Yeah, if I can if we're going to add on to that, what I would say is be very clear on what the outcomes and benefit you're trying to sell to us, because you know we have people trying to sell a gold-plated thing all the time, but actually we're not. You know what we're interested in is what's the outcomes and benefits that, you know, whether it be freight passengers, pointing passengers, but what is it that you're achieving with that? That opens the door more than just trying to sell a widget. If that's any help to people in how they shape their presentations to us, really.
And that's spot on. I guess, Richard, just to come back to a phrase I used earlier in the week, will the passenger notice?
Yeah.
Or the freight user, I have to point out.
Indeed.
You've absolutely got to cover freight. It's important, and it could have a growing importance if we can get parcels shifted onto the network. Anyway, I won't disappear down that rabbit hole. Thank you all very, very much indeed. There were some real gems of wisdom in there from both sides, from the SME side and from the tier 2 side, I think from Martin, and tier 1s as well. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much indeed. And huge round of applause here from our audience, which it's out there, so I can hear it. You've got, you know, a couple of hundred people plus there applauding that. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you very much.
I can say thank you to you guys and then move on to say that we have, again, you can download the handouts from your handout tab on the grey box on your screen, the dialog box. Also, next week we'll have the presentations and recordings available on the RIA website, and hopefully you'll get an email sometime in between, probably over the weekend or Monday, offering you a link. But do come to the RIA website. All of the stuff we do on innovation is open. You do have to create an account, but you don't have to be a member to get all the innovation stuff, just the rest of the stuff, basically. So, on to our next speaker. Lots of you will have been to the Signalling Innovations Conference in Bristol. It seems a long time ago, but it actually wasn't now. A lot of stuff has happened in between. And we're going to hear from someone who's a huge supporter of SMEs and who drives through innovation as his day job as the lead for the Signalling Innovations Group. And that's David Shipman. So, David, can I hand over to you, please?
Thank you, Richard, and good afternoon, everyone. So for those who aren't familiar with the Signalling Innovations Group, just a tiny bit of background. We've been around for over a decade, for most of that time, working under the IP, the Infrastructure Project Signalling team until November of last year, which is when we actually transferred across to the new Network Services Directorate in Network Rail. So we're part of technical services, and there's a technical services delivery group being formed that we sit in, along with a number of other functions, including innovations groups from track and other disciplines, and various other activities. But within Network Rail, we're just one of a number of teams that have an interest in innovation. What I give you today will be a bit of a reflection from our perspective. Your mileage might vary with other parts of Network Rail, as is often the case, but hopefully I'm going to be able to give you a little bit of idea of what SMEs mean to us and how we've been able to work with them. The kind of work we do, we have our own customers. We work with the routes and the regions. We work directly on R&D programs. And for those of you who have attended some of the presentations earlier this week, you'll have heard about Target 190 Plus. We are delivering some key elements of Target 190 that fit into our innovations opportunities. We work with the capital delivery teams, and of course we work directly with suppliers as well. And we're often approached by SMEs looking to introduce ideas to the railway. So we wanted to give a little bit of a positive example of how we've worked really successfully with one in recent times, and then reflect on the best ways and the things that SMEs in particular, but not just SMEs, need to consider when looking to work with us, looking to use us to help introduce products. And certainly in that, I think I'm going to reflect on some of the points that have just been made in that last panel session. So hopefully as we move on, just reflecting on digital railway for a moment, it is a vast opportunity for the whole industry to innovate and develop new tools and products and techniques, and we're definitely working actively in that. And the headlines are always grabbed by the big challenges and opportunities. They're obvious, but we find there are lots of ways that we can work with SMEs, and that's people who are involved within the rail industry, but also sometimes transferring that knowledge from other sectors is really good as well. So that's hopefully what this session is going to do for us. So as many will have known and seen, we've had our own solutions in place that we've been developing for video and laser surveying for several years, including our own tail lamp camera system, which you can see sitting on the train on the left-hand picture. But around a year ago, we were approached by a company who I believe presented earlier this week, One Big Circle, and they came in to talk about what their capabilities were in this area. The initial headline is that they can do video capture, which in itself isn't that enticing to us because we've already got that, but they came and showed us all of their capabilities, and through having those discussions, actually we learned more of the ins and outs, and they were able to show us about the expertise they had around edge processing and using that video data more smartly at the point of capture, which led us to an opportunity we were considering on dynamic detection of points run through risk, which needs instantaneous evaluation of video images. Now, through those discussions, we found they've got the technologies and the capabilities, but it's taken us 6 to 12 months to get that project up and running because we've had to go through our own internal governance and work around that, but at least we knew we had a possible solution. But in the meantime, we've had other opportunities open up. And this was a really important factor. Once we knew what this company was capable of and we'd seen some of their technologies, as part of the business approached us to help them with a problem, we were able to identify who the supply chain were that could actually help us with this. So there's a really good example here of how we've taken that video technology. We've used the housings that we developed to our own tail lamp camera. We've worked with One Big Circle to bring in new types of camera technology so that we're using thermal detection methods, and we're then taking OBC's capabilities in data processing and distribution of that data, plus the edge processing in particular, to start capturing image from thermal imagery. Now, this example here, as you can hopefully see, there's a little yellow hotspot detected. When you look at the video footage, that coincides with where the third rail is actually connected to the power cable. And so that's already been used to identify and alert the maintenance team to a possible problem at that particular location. So this isn't what One Big Circle came in to talk to us about, but through having that conversation with us, they were able to exploit the opportunity when we joined up the dots. And that was before COVID-19. That really was a big game changer. Because at this point, our maintenance colleagues had a bit of a problem. They have to regularly undertake safety inspections, which they do from inside the cab, but it's very difficult to get any sort of social distancing from the driver. And so they were desperately looking around for other solutions, and our video solutions were one of the ones that they'd see. Now, without turning to cameras, the increase in the system safety risk would ultimately have stopped trains being able to run, we would have literally had to close lines. And I think most people are aware that the railway has been an absolutely vital link in terms of distributing freight and getting workers into key workers into their offices or hospitals and schools and the like. So because we had our footage, we were able to capture some data, but without being able to engage with suppliers with that additional capability, and again using OBC because we've got that relationship there, we've been able to start building up and distributing this footage on a much wider scale. And this has already shown dividends because we've been identifying issues such as in the right-hand side where there's a close call, which I will just run through a little bit of a very short video just to show you how that's happened in practice. So this is the kind of video footage that we're now sharing out to our maintenance teams. Historically, this would have been done by someone standing in the cab who may not even have been looking in the right place at the right time as they passed this particular incident. But because we're now distributing that video out to them, they're able to identify it, take stock of the whole situation, flag it up, and then pass that information on to others. So that's really changed the way they've been able to work. And the really key thing with this is how, having built up that relationship with the supplier, not necessarily through doing loads of work with them, but understanding them and them understanding us, we were able to turn to them and make the best use of their capabilities when circumstances changed. You'd have heard in the previous panel discussions and the presentation before, long-term relationships were mentioned more than once, and that's really what's important here. It's about building up that relationship. In a couple of slides time, I'll take you through a little bit more of how we view some of those relationships. But just before I do that, just to give you a little bit of a taster really of some of the opportunities we've got now and coming up. There's a wide variety of things where we need to go on to the next slide, where we've got a number of pipeline opportunities, either that we're working with SMEs now or we see as opportunities. So I mentioned things like the points run through system. We've actually got One Big Circle as one of the two companies in that, but another SME that we've been introduced to recently is also developing a solution to give us potentially some competing opportunities there. There was mention that, Lucy made about, are we a railway company or are we a technology company? Well, we've got a piece of work that we're currently exploring the opportunity for a remote train ready to start, which is very much a technology solution to a railway problem. It doesn't necessarily need a traditional railway company involved, but it's the sort of thing that there are many SMEs out there that can support us with that type of technology. Working around some of our digital data capture, we've got work that we're about to launch with lightweight post-mounted sensors to understand how we can better communicate with the equipment on the trains. Level crossing sounders, again, another area that we can engage an SME who've got skills in a slightly different area to the rail industry to adjust level crossing sound levels. As part of Target 190, we're looking at CCS validation and laboratories, so there are opportunities there for companies with experience in simulation and augmented reality into different world. Back to old technologies with relay contacts, but we're looking at how we can monitor them better using modern developments like Internet of Things. Again, a technology solution that's not traditional railway, and the list goes on really through those items. So there are loads of different things that that SMEs can get onto. But again, as people have mentioned before, and Andy Stringer in particular mentioned, how do we get past that first meeting and onto the second? And I was giving this some thought. And while I can't honestly say I've ever been speed dating, it did feel like our relationships with the SMEs that approach us is very much like speed dating, but as I say, without the bar snacks. So quite often we'll meet someone who comes up to us and says they've got a product and it's going to solve a problem and they want us to buy it. Well, I think that's quite confident and bold. You know what you've got and you know what it's going to do, but I'm not sure we know each other well enough that actually I know that you understand my problems, or that you know that your product is really the right one that we want. We move on through the process, and sometimes people come up to say, and they've listened to us, and they think they've got the answer, but it's straight into, well, will you buy it? And again, that's getting a bit better. We're getting a bit more personal treatment. We like to be listened to, but it's still sometimes assumed that what we want is something that can just be sold to us off the shelf. And my third example here, so actually we've started talking about our challenges and the capabilities of the company that's come to us, and they're actually looking at how they can work with us to try and explore that. Now, this is much more what happened with One Big Circle, and why that was a really successful case, because there was a mutual level of exploring and understanding what each other could do. So in my mind, that's the kind of example where we might actually start to get to the second meeting a lot better, and follow up from that. But the speed dating comparison aside, there are some serious points there. So when we're approached with a ready-made solution to a preconceived problem, if it really is a priority issue, then it's quite possible actually that somewhere in Network Rail that's already in progress in some way. If it does solve a problem, that doesn't mean that we can then just buy the first solution that's brought to us, because our governance doesn't work that way. We have to think about how we can tailor that solution to what we need, how we can get the authority to invest in that, how we can demonstrate that we're getting value from money from the market, and how we integrate that. So it's more than just buying a solution off the shelf. So that mutual understanding is really, really important. We can understand where the focus lies, how we can fit things into our plan, and really from an SME, we want the flexibility to be able to adapt. Just to remember as well that the first step really is the furthest step to take. So getting that engagement right is the way to get from initial contact to a first contract. The second comment came from One Big Circle themselves, and this is one of the things they thought was really, really important to their approach, and really helped them, was standing out in the crowd by having some skin in the game, to coin a phrase. So proving the maturity and robustness in the technology, not just a theoretical idea, and then approaching us with that, with a little bit of experience of how it works in a field environment, so that we can work together and make sure that what gets developed meets our needs and challenges. A few things to mention just on commercial practicalities as well, and again, this is from SIG's perspective really, not necessarily every part of Network Rail, but we've got probably about 4 options. So for some work we can direct award to a single party, but we've got a big financial constraint on that, so that's only going to be a small piece of work, and we have to think about the future scale of things in doing that. We can go a bit bigger with sort of competitive comparisons between multiple suppliers, but again, that still leaves us capped a little bit. And if we're going to take something that actually rolls out to the whole of Network Rail, that becomes quite a big project very quickly. And if we don't consider that early on, we can do work with an SME that we then can't procure because we have to go out to a competitive arrangement. One really key way to think about working with us is we have existing frameworks that we can use. There's the managed services framework, there's a solutions delivery framework, and of course there's things like the signaling frameworks that we talked about earlier. Actually, they're really great ways that we can work with SMEs, and some of the work that we're doing with SMEs at the moment is via working with a slightly larger party who's on an existing framework. So, do think about the ways that you can engage with us. And then finally, beyond that, we're into bespoke tendering, which is obviously a much more major issue, but we may need to do that, and as it gets above European thresholds, then we definitely need to get into that situation. But we have to be mindful of all of our policies and procedures. We have to be mindful of the rules around procurement thresholds. We have to think at the start about what it's going to cost in the long term, because we can't just agree to spend some money and then keep building that up and up. So bear in mind, from our perspective, governance takes time, but it does save time in that longer run. So just a few final thoughts. We like SMEs. We want to work with SMEs. it's really great. There are some really great points about what small companies can do for us, but there are also issues where we struggle with as well. So having companies that are really agile and can do things in an agile way is great, but we can't always be as agile as that. We love new approaches and new ways of thinking, but we have to tailor that to an industry that's sometimes very resistant to new ideas. And as again, as we mentioned in the previous session, it's not just about the technology; it's about the whole people and culture environment as well. SMEs tend to be able to focus very well on a particular solution space. The problem for us is sometimes that's not the solution space we're focusing on at the time. But building up that engagement, sometimes it can take a few years before the particular solution and the opportunity for it come together. So there needs to be a little bit of a patience sometimes as well. The can-do attitude's great, but we have to make sure we follow our bureaucracy. It's essential bureaucracy, but it's bureaucracy nonetheless. And finally, we love welcoming new people into the industry and bringing those new ideas in, but we also have to be mindful that small companies can fail viability tests if we're not careful. So you know, that's another way where working within a framework or with a framework supplier can really help you get in. So that really is it with a few closing thoughts, which I've jumped past. So we've got challenges for both digital railway with capital letters, but also with lowercase, because this is about digitizing what we do in a much better way. We're looking for disruptive solutions and incremental steps, and we really want to work with companies across the spread. So thank you very much.
That's absolutely fabulous, David, and you know exactly what people who know you would have expected, because you live those values, and there's a whole bunch of real useful information in there. It's easy for SMEs to be sometimes over optimistic, and you've got to understand the practicalities of dealing with the kind of customer that you're talking to, and Network Rail is a large organization. There's also a world of difference between a smart idea and something that's implemented on the railway, and there's a whole bunch of stuff there that we need to do to make sure that products are safe and that we're not losing the fantastic safety record that we've got in the industry. So brilliant. Thank you very much again, David Shipman. So we heard earlier from Lucy Pryor about Three Squared's recent win on HS2, well, announced today, I think. And now we're going to hear from Stephen Bull, who's rail lead at SME Ebony, about their win on a vital part of the digital railway, the degraded mode working system, DMWS, which Carl Butler-Garnham of Network Rail spoke about in our innovation session yesterday. So I'm going to hand over to you, Stephen. Stephen.
Hi, Ebony is an SME which provides safety analysis and assessment services to several critical industry sectors, including several projects within the portfolio that's been talked about this week. As Richard's just said, Carl yesterday outlined the mode working system. I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about the project and our role as independent safety assessor. DMWS is a system to keep trains moving when the primary signalling system fails. So that's the system operating the lights and the points that we're familiar with. Currently, when the primary system fails, Network Rail uses manual procedures to operate trains safely. And that means that personnel have to go trackside to secure the points, and the signaller gives verbal instructions to the driver to pass red signals. DMWS is designed to automate this process, getting trains running again more quickly, improving safety by reducing the need to go trackside, and by providing in-cab movement authorities to the driver. DMWS is using a mixture of existing infrastructure and new components. Principally, the new components are a central processing and display system, a train-borne element which reports train position and gives movement authority to the driver, and a trackside element which detects the position of points and stops them being moved by the primary system and suppresses TPWS so that it doesn't trip the train when it passes red signals. The aim of the system is to deliver reliable and safe means of keeping trains moving when the primary system fails. And the main challenges of the system are, well, technical integration of the elements with each other, technical and operational integration of the solution with existing systems, and prevention of interference between DMWS and the existing systems. So our role is as independent safety assessor. We're providing a professional technical judgment on the safety of the DMWS solution. So we will ask questions like, does it have a suitable set of safety requirements? And does the design and implementation meet those requirements? And so we will be using a risk-based approach to provide the independent assurance which the project needs. And I will be reporting to the Network Rail System Review Panel to give them the confidence that the system will operate correctly and safely. Our role is different from the assessment body role under CSM. That's focused on the operational change to the railway. Our role is a more technical role aligned to compliance of the technical system with the Senelec standards. It's difficult to illustrate our role on a slide, so I've chosen a few images which capture different aspects of what we will do. We're starting with early engagement with the project to review their plans and identify key risks. And we attend the project safety working group as an observer so that we can understand what they're going through and, where appropriate, give early views from the ISA's perspective about what they're doing. Our activities also include a mixture of observing workshops, auditing processes, and reviewing documentation. And the intention is to plan what we're doing to review the key risk areas of the project and build evidence incrementally. And then if we identify areas of concern, we'll let the project know as soon as possible so they can address them early at minimal cost. The project also involves development of SIL2 software, and we will be assessing that software against the relevant standard, that's Senelec 50128. And then we will draw all our activities together to provide incremental assurance to the project and to SRP. And this will culminate in presentation of support for the first operational application of the system on the live railway. So that's what we're doing for DMWS. EBNI doesn't just do ISA work, we offer safety and system engineering work. We do hazard analysis, write safety cases, provide support for product approval, and we focus on delivering value for our clients by taking a focused and risk-based approach, aligning our work to CSMRA and the Senelec standards, other standards as required. And we're involved in a number of the projects which have been mentioned this week. There's the ETCS freight fitment project, various signalling system deployments, and the ULINKS program. And we're also actually currently supporting CSM assurance for a major project running adjacent to the railway. So I hope that's given you a flavour of what we do. If you'd like to get in touch, then please feel free. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much indeed, Stephen. And often safety and understanding safety process is a tripping over point for SMEs in the industry. So collaboration is a good thing, and your people that bring skills to that partnership. So a final talk today is a fantastic project at Birmingham University, which I think is the jewel in the crown of the UCRIN funding package, the Centre of Excellence in Digital Systems. And here to tell us about it is Dr. Jenny Illingsworth, Deputy Director of the BCRRE. Is that promotion, Jenny?
I wish, yeah, just a fancy title.
Well, if it isn't, it should. You've certainly earned it. So Dr. Jenny Illingsworth.
Thank you very much. First of all, please accept my apologies for being a day behind. I've written 2nd of July, so yeah, so let's go on for that. So yeah, thanks so much, Richard, for giving me a few minutes to introduce the UCRIN Centre of Excellence in Digital Systems, and particularly what's in it for SMEs. Now, the Centre of Excellence is made up of us here in Birmingham. I've got colleagues from Lancaster, Imperial College and Swansea universities as well, and I'm going to give you a very quick whistle-stop tour of what's going to be available in Birmingham. So my thing isn't working. Oh, it is. Good. There should be 2 pictures coming up here. Oh, I want to go back to the previous slide. Could you send me back to the previous slide, please? Sorry. So we're getting towards the end of our build programme. Rather unfortunately, what we haven't got here is the picture of our new UCRIN wing to the new School of Engineering. So the picture we can see here is the New School of Engineering building, and on the back of, towards the back of that is going to be the Ukraine wing. But hopefully it's on the slide, on the handouts, so we should be okay. So what's going to be available? Well, we're going to have 3,000 square meters of offices, offices, seminar space, breakout space, event space, meeting rooms, research facilities. So it's a really rather amazing space. And what's going to be in there, we're going to have project labs, electronics labs, labs for the simulation things that you heard about from Clive yesterday, so-called kind of like heavy labs with space for research on things like robotics, mechatronics. It will have a pantograph cell that we've already got in our labs here in Birmingham already, all sorts of things. So basically the ultimate message is that there's going to be quite a lot of quite cool kit. So why am I telling you this? Well, the building has been designed so that companies, and of course particularly SMEs, can take advantage of all of this. We are the, of course, Ukraine, which has got innovation in the network, innovation in its title, I beg your pardon. So the idea is that people can come along and take space with us to work in the labs, in the offices, in the informal spaces, and working closely with our researchers, our industry experts, with our academics, with our research students, with even people like me, if you're really unlucky, on all things projects, all things digital and digital related. So like David said, we're the digital railway with capital letters and digital railway in lowercase as well. So as well as the open plan workspaces that we've got here, kind of showing a little bit of a project lab sort of layout, there will be some more confidential spaces available as well. So if you want to take an office space, some lab space, or even both, according to the kind of project you want to work on, it's all really quite flexible. And the flexibility extends. You can take the space for like a few hours, few days, number of months, a couple of years, depending on the size and scale of your project. And naturally, we will be having safeguards in place to protect people, results, intellectual property, COVID, social distancing, and all this. So what I've got, I can show you a snapshot from yesterday's webcam, and some of our most recent site visits. This is what it's going to be looking like. So it's got quite a fancy, well, when it was raining, it didn't look quite so nice when I took that picture, but this is a snapshot from our webcam. And you can see it's going to be quite a nice building. The top right hand side shows the collaborative research office, where we'll have lots and lots of lovely researchers and experts to work with. And the bottom picture is a snap of the current state of play of the research labs. When this picture was taken, there are some puddles on the floor. We're kind of hoping they'll have dried up by then. And the progress ultimately is that we're on track to open in the autumn. So this is all very nice. Good news for SMEs is that we also have, not only do we have fabulous facilities, but we also have a funded project, hopefully will help you. So we have this ERDF funded DigiRail Business Support and Innovation Project. And so it means we can get some projects funded. And the DigiRail project does kind of what it says on the tin, really. It sets out to increase the number of SME companies supplying the rail industry with digital and digital related enabled products, a little bit going back to what David just mentioned a few minutes ago as well. So if you fit the eligibility criteria, you can access business and technical support around how you can get into rail, grow your business in rail, undertake product service development projects and such like. So you've got this will be on the handout, so you can come back to refer to it. What kind of projects you might say? Well, this is just again another teeny whistle stop tour of a recent project. My eye was caught by this one because I thought it was quite simple and effective kind of thing. So this is a development of a company's existing range, which monitors people on construction sites. And what we found is that track maintenance workers sometimes move wittingly or unwittingly onto nearby live tracks, which isn't really an ideal situation. So what we did, we worked with companies, a couple of our technical experts worked along with them and developed this helmet mounted device which sends a warning that a train is approaching. It's really simple and effective. It works on a basis of knowing what the timetable is, but also some other clever gadgetry. to say whether the train is actually coming along or not. And interesting, this is a slight sort of aside for this. Quite early into lockdown, we were asked if we could help with a similar device to keep workers 2 meters from each other. So it's all got quite a lot of sort of current relevance as well. There's absolutely loads of interesting, innovative ideas out there. And again, like some of the guys have been saying earlier on, it's all very well to have a great idea, but of course we want to make sure that the customer or the freight operator will actually notice as it's there. And one of the projects like this hopefully will help you, basically get there. But of course, if you're not an SME, then if you're not in one of the right LEP regions currently, you don't miss out though, because everyone is welcome in Birmingham. I've got a quick shameless plug, and thanks very much to Lucy earlier on for encouraging people about the industry associations. So the University of Birmingham is home to the BCRE Rail Alliance. The Rail Alliance is the largest business-to-business rail supply chain community. And together with RIA and Rail Forum Midlands, we make up the Rail Innovation family. So the idea being, of course, that we all get together and do great things innovation-wise all together. So Rail Alliance is also a founding member of the European Rail Clusters Initiative, which gives you access straight into loads and loads more similar companies and the European rail supply chain as well. So the idea being, if you're part of the Rail Alliance community, it can almost be a one-stop shop at getting you into innovation ideas. Oh, Richard's just popped up. Sorry, Richard. Is my time up? Right. So it's an online showcase as well for your company, networking opportunities in real and virtual world as well across Europe. So what I'd like to also shameless plug, and again, as Lucy was saying again earlier, make use of as many of the trade associations as you can. Rail Alliance membership has got a free entry level anyway, but during COVID-19 lockdown, we're also currently offering the £200 a year version of membership for free, so that everybody can not miss out. Basically, my time is definitely up, so I shall leave you with the contact details. Do get in touch with us. Follow the links to all of our websites and things. Check out the brand new up and running Rail Alliance website. Thank you. I'll shut up because Richard's given me an evil eye.
Not at all, Jenny. That's great. Thank you very much indeed. If you can keep your camera and sound up, and then if all the other speakers and panelists can join me for a final Q&A for a few minutes, please. The first question I wanted to pick up on, if you can all rejoin, great, is from Anne Wilson, who asks about skills. She says, we know that people with similar skills essentially together. How do we as an industry reach out to those clusters of skills to help develop their skills in terms of rail? So how can we reach out to where there are digital skills or whatever it might be that we need to offer them basic rail training? We're going to take her on that.
I'm going to have a go.
Lucy.
There are so many opportunities for us to engage. And what I said earlier, I think it was in response to something David Madison said, we've got to engage early just to open people's eyes up, not just the students, but their parents as well. We've got to communicate earlier and earlier, not to funnel them down a specific route, but to let them know what the emerging skills requirements are, put it into plain speak. If you can code, you could do this, this, or this. There are so many different applications of various skills. So Anne, for example, Anne and I have both supported a massive STEM event that takes place annually in South Yorkshire. If there are STEM events or STEAM events in your region, as an individual or as an organisation, please get involved. Please do. Talk about it yourself. Let people know what you do, because we're really, really good as a railway industry at talking to one another about how great railway is. We've got to talk to a wider audience to communicate the fact that it is an evolving landscape and it does have an evolving skills need. I could go on, so I'm going to hand over and let somebody else.
Jenny, that's probably an area that you should know something about, I guess, with Birmingham.
I've heard of one or two skills things. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we come across a lot of people who say, yeah, but the railways are horrible. industry. And I think it's just getting across the fact that there's an awful lot of opportunity in there, and it's not the Orange Army. It's so much more than that.
Oh, definitely not just the Orange Army. In fact, interestingly, Stuart Calvert once told me off for you. Well, didn't tell me off. He didn't want to ever hear the phrase Orange Army again, because another one of the elements of digital rail is about getting rid of line side workers, because we might be the safest, but we want to be safer, and therefore that's another argument for using digital technology to enhance our skills.
I'd settle for getting line side workers to a clean, safe working environment. You know, maybe monitoring what automated machines are doing in terms of track inspection and repair for sure. But you're always going to need a human element. It's about
I was just going to say, I think the industry is changing. I mean, the STEM events that we run, it's very clear that there's a gap of knowledge in regards to what the rail industry is about. So again, there is a concept of it's going out there on tracks and doing work. But when you start engaging, say, actually, it's the high-end engineering, it's software development, it's AI, it's technology, you know, diverse in marketing, you know, people don't realize how much there is to the rail industry itself. So we as an industry need to get it out there clearly in the events, in the, you know, really early ages about what the rail industry is. But it's becoming more of an attractive industry as well, you know, where, you know, you're not out at night time all the time, you're not out weekends. The technology we're moving into, it's you know, it's a very different environment, so it becomes more attractive to people to come into the rail industry. So I think we as an industry just got to make sure that we're getting that message about how we're changing as an industry and moving forward as well with technology and innovation.
Stephen,
I think probably, if I can just build on that, Richard, I think
yes, Andy.
When I look at our organisation, we've got a couple of thousand people that understand the rail industry. Debatably, we don't need any more. So rather than trying to change people coming in, I think as an industry, we need to create an environment where these people can thrive without having the restrictions of knowing what the rail industry is about. And let the fresh ideas and the new ideas come in without kind of beating out of them and say, well, we've done it like this for 200 years and you will learn to do it like this. I think we need to create that environment for them. And I think there's probably people in the industry, particularly outside of the big organisations, that can remind us we've got that responsibility to make that happen.
Yeah, it's often the case that the greater public and also the government as well looks at the rail as a means of transport and not as an industry in itself. And it's often kind of forgotten about as an industry, which is why we and others bang the drum for it incessantly in Whitehall and with government for sure. Jonathan Harris asked a question about making projects perhaps less customized and with more of a cookie cutter approach to cut costs. You could argue that we've certainly had a go at that in the signalling industry with modular signalling. But David Shipman, what do you think about that? How can we make projects cheaper by making them more homogeneous, more repetitive?
Well, to be fair, that's a big element of Target 190. You know, one of the things that's doing, as well as looking at what the future technologies are, is finding the ways that we can introduce those technologies in the most efficient and effective manner. Including looking at the design of systems as a more generic modular whole. And there's a European initiative on RCA. Which is all tied in with that as well, which is about having a more modular approach across the industry. So there are things being done to look at that, and I mean the other aspects are changing the way that we test and commission and validate and getting that all brought back into lab-based environments, which also suits having a much better automated testable solutions as well. So it's very much the way we're trying to go, certainly in the CCS world. I think there will be, there will be more of that. It's the only way that we can drive down the costs. It's not, there's more to it than just that, but it needs to be a key part of driving down those costs.
Martin, how do you feel about that? Is your profitability essentially all in the customization, or is it better for you to be efficient and deliver repetitive projects?
Yeah, I have to say, whilst I'm entirely on board with the modular philosophy, being a provider of people and skills rather than being a provider of technology, I'd far rather us rely on us looking at eliminating waste from our projects. I have to say, within the rail industry, there's some criminal areas of waste from the small to the large, and I think if we concentrate on cutting out some of those, then we all might be a bit more efficient. And I'll take, for example, use of technology. We still have large volumes of paperwork which have to go out with our supervisors on site all the time, when actually we should by now have all moved to an electronic environment where they're all out with iPads. We're slowly on the move there, but that's a criminal amount of paper that we print out on a nightly basis. So for me, I'd like to see an elimination of waste, and I think that would be a better use of our time.
Hopefully, as projects become digital from end to end, we will see that happen as a byproduct, but it would be nice to push forward on it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, again, you know, they are work activities that are in the R&D space that we're looking at the moment. So hopefully we will be able to make some differences there.
Stephen, automation in really high cost parts of the railway, such as safety engineering and so on, what are we seeing there that's making the process more efficient?
Automation is something which is obviously big in the railway. Haven't seen any of it directly in safety yet, but what we are seeing is there's a number of areas, like David's mentioned, where there are research activities going on to automate various parts of the process. And I think one of the important things we need to make sure is to make sure that we get those right so that we can trust them going forward. And that means putting the investment in as they're developed, so that then when they're used at the end, we can have the confidence that those have been developed correctly, and therefore make the safety arguments much easier at the end. One of the projects I'm involved in at the moment, actually with David, is the ULinks program, where we are taking a small step towards that in doing the assurance up front for the definition of specifications, so that when the suppliers then implement those specifications, they have the confidence that they have been properly assured, and they have hopefully the tick in the box from the independent assessor to say they've been appropriately assured, to make the process easier down the line.
Okay, David M or Andy, did you want to add to that in terms of you know, where are we going to automate to get this this saving?
I think, as I said in the presentation, our philosophy about the major signal frameworks are a long-term investment from Network Rail, a long-term investment from us. So all the decisions we make around the deployment are for a region. And so it blends itself to bring in, you know, a modular type, a systematic approach towards it. We make a region decision as opposed to individual projects, and you know, that allows us to do it. But you know, process improvements are an important one. So we've got a tool called Smart Bench, produces data. Previously, not too many years ago, you know, it took 5 data passes to produce an interlocking design. Automation's reduced that to 2. What does it do? It saves time, saves costs, saves money. So that's a process innovation that supports what we're doing. So we've got to come at it, you know, at all angles really, in regards to how we systematically apply what we do. So you know, the framework, the major signal framework, gives us a great opportunity to try and modularize things, but you know, it's a cultural thing as well, and we need to invest in that as well.
Okay, good. Can just move on, Jenny. Very quick question for you about the way in which Centre of Excellence for Digital Systems will operate. Will it work in cohorts, or will it be freestyle? Is there a charge to be involved? What are the practicalities of it?
Freestyle cohorts, I would have thought. So the space that's going to be available will be office space and lab space. You can rent a lab, you can rent a bench, you can rent a desk and things like this. I am using the word rent because there will be charges against it, but it's basically cost covering charges. We've got a research park on the university campus, and the cost basis is being used. It's the same cost basis as what we'll be doing, what we already currently do. So it's pretty competitive in terms of if you were trying to take space on, say, a science park or something like that. But the great thing is that there's going to be kit there available, and you won't have to necessarily pay for the kit as a result, because it's there ready to be used. It's just a case of kind of getting yourself slotted in and signing on the dotted line and showing that you're not going to leave the windows open to let all the chavs from Selly Oak come and steal things from us.
Okay, right.
That's just recorded, isn't it? I've just been recorded saying chavs in Selly Oak, but there you go.
Yeah, before you talk yourself into that corner, I'd certainly echo your advice earlier for people to make sure they download and look at Clive Roberts' presentation from yesterday to see what the opportunities are to link to that simulation to test what they're bringing along. I'd just like to really thank our panel.
There is more than simulation as well. There's, you know, there's a whole load. If you just want to do some electronics, you can do it in the building as well. So, you know.
Sure. Thank you, Jenny. I really look forward to finding out more about that as we go along, as it comes towards opening, actually. So
yeah, we'll have an opening do.
I hope that's been a useful session today to our delegates in finding out about opportunities to win work in and around the DR programme. And remember that for RIA members, we're here to do a lot more to help you, to provide information and support you in growing your business. Big thank you to all of our speakers and to our panelists today. Thank you, all of you. Well done to all our delegates who've stayed the course for the whole week. You're tough people, I'll give you that. We hope you found it useful, and please continue to engage with RIA. If you're not a member, you might want to consider becoming one, as well as attending our next UI events, which will be on decarbonisation in October and Very Light Rail in conjunction with Warwick Manufacturing Group in December. Finally, to all my colleagues at RIA who've worked behind the scenes all week to make the whole thing work so seamlessly, thank you, great job. Enjoy your weekend, you've really earned it. And the same goes for everybody else. Have a good weekend, everybody. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers, bye-bye.